It's the start of another week here on Locked On Blue Devils. Plenty of good news as of late, a new commit for the Duke basketball program, and so much more. Let's discuss it all on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. I hope that you're doing well here on this Monday, May 13th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics, talk a lot about Duke men's basketball, of course. I want to give a big shout-out to our Duke softball team, who was selected as the number 10 national seed in the entire NCAA tournament. They will host the Durham Regional coming up this weekend. A big series coming up this weekend as well for Duke baseball against those North Carolina Tar Heels as they get closer to the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament as well on the baseball side of things. But Friday, we got another commitment for the Duke men's basketball team. Seon James commits to join the Brotherhood. He is the newest addition by way of the transfer portal, and we'll discuss what his addition means with our good pal, Kevin Connelly, the site expert from Ball Durham, on today's episode of the program. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly on the Apple Podcast platform. Your support means so much to us. Please go leave that 5-star rating and review. Also, watch our show on YouTube each and every day. Hit that subscribe button. I want to continue climbing in subscribers here on Locked On Blue Devils. Like these videos, share it with your friends, and subscribe. Subscribe. Your support means so much to us here with Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, very excited to bring him on in. It's our good friend, Kevin Connelly, once again, the site expert from Ball Durham, back with us to start another week. And Kevin, as I said, we got good news, man. Another player joining the Brotherhood.
Yeah, Friday morning, Sion James officially announces his commitment to Duke. Maybe rounds out the roster. It seems like that's the indication right now. I don't know if they're going to use those 2 open scholarships on players that are going to crack the rotation. But certainly good news to lock down Seon James after he visited about a week ago from his commitment to his visit. Knew he was going through the NBA draft process. I think he had a visit with the Brooklyn Nets and a workout with them, but all indications pointed that he was going to withdraw and eventually commit to Duke. And it happens on Friday morning. So Duke fans get to jump on their weekend a little bit early, and certainly taking that in stride with a lot of pleasure too.
Worth noting, today is the start of the NBA Combine, the draft combine there in Chicago. Tomorrow on Tuesday will be a lot of the 5-on-5 scrimmage portions where execs really like to see those guys kind of get after it. A lot of measurable tests throughout the course of today. And again, Seon James was kind of a part of the early portion, did not have a combine invite to be participating this week. That's why he's able to go ahead and make a decision like this to come and play basketball for Duke. And Duke definitely benefits by him joining now, Kevin, rather than the waiting game, trying to figure out what exactly it's going to be since Friday has taken place. Our Monday morning news here is that Duke has officially announced the addition of Seon James. He's turned in all the paperwork. This is good to go, man. We got him on the squad going into next season.
Yeah, it's official. He's going to be a part of this Duke team. And you're right. Yeah, I guess it is important for a decision from him. Obviously, that really hasn't been the case with Duke over the past couple of years. I guess Jeremy Roach last year, but once he didn't get an invite to the combine, he quickly withdrew his name from the NBA draft. Guess you got to go back to Trevor Keels as the last player that Duke really had to sweat out and wait out their decision to see what they were going to do, whether stay in the NBA draft or return. And obviously, he stayed in the NBA draft, and I don't know if it's worked out the best for him leaving after just 1 year.
Yeah, so we'll obviously see how those decisions go for other players. But again, Sion James is the new Blue Devil. Quote from head coach John Shire, quote, "We're thrilled to welcome Sion James to the Brotherhood. He's a proven leader with a high IQ and great feel for the game. Bringing Sion to Duke is not just about adding talent. It's about adding a culture of competitiveness and winning attitude that he has. His versatility as a defender is a big strength, and his ability to make others better on offense will elevate our team. Sion will have a tremendous impact on and off the court, and I'm anxious to get started with him and the rest of our team." So we hear right there John Shire complimenting what he's able to do on the defensive end of the floor, compliment how athletic of a basketball player he is, and just kind of his versatility, Kevin.
Yeah, you look at him, and I guess he feels a need because Duke was looking for another guard. He adds to the height. I think we talked about when Duke was recruiting him. 6'6" guard. Guess he can play some wing as well. And you look a stat that Duke put out today. Right now, of the players that are on scholarship that are committed to this team, they are taller than Florida State, who was the tallest team in the country last year. So, as we said, with Duke adding size, they're adding toughness, they're adding strength, all positives. The one thing with Sion James is I don't know if he's not your traditional ball handler. He's not that guy that could come off the bench and really spell Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster, which everyone's kind of been looking for. Yes, he can do a whole lot of other things on the court. He can defend, he can rebound, but he's really not that prototypical pure point guard that I think a lot of people were looking for. So can he develop into that? I think we'll have to wait and see. But that's just the one thing right now I don't really see out of him is being that point guard that could handle the ball if, say, Tyrese Proctor or Caleb Foster, one of them is injured, other one's in foul trouble, et cetera, et cetera.
Sion James, 6'6", 220 pounds, 4 years of basketball at Tulane, now able to use his COVID year of eligibility to play for the Duke Blue Devils, a native of Sugar Hill, Georgia, so a little closer to home now that he's going to be playing basketball there in Durham. And as you said just a moment ago, pointing out what Duke brought to folks' attentions on their social media platforms, the average height of current committed scholarship players for next year is 79.4 inches. 79.4 inches, about 6'7". FSU was number one nationally in average height last season at 79.3 inches. All of this, of course, via KenPom. So 79.4, the average height in inches for the Duke basketball team. A big squad that we've got joining the Brotherhood for next season, and I think that's a big thing for the Duke basketball team. Let's talk a little bit more about what his addition to the program means after we take our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. That's right. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit over other leading job boards. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's keep going on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Kevin Connelly joins me here on today's show. He is the site expert for Ball Durham. What is Ball Durham, Kevin?
Well, Ball Durham is everything you could possibly want to know about Duke basketball and its surroundings. High school players, current players, past players, pro players. We got it all over there at balldurham.com. You could read us every day at balldurham.com, and you can follow us on social media at ball_Durham.
Seon James is the newest Blue Devil. He announces his decision on Friday. Earlier today, Duke officially announced his signing to the program. He'll be a part of the squad going into next season. We've got photos from his visit that have now been posted on social media. We're displaying one of those on our YouTube feed right now if you're watching the show, and it's of Sion James holding one of the 5 national championships for Duke. He quote tweeted a post earlier today saying he's already ready to start the trip for the 6th national title. So this is fun to see, Kevin. The bar is set really high, as it always is at Duke. Sion James is immediately aware of that and recognizes it.
Yeah, he is. And again, I think he's going to be a great addition. I think John Shire's made it clear about what he was looking for in the transfer portal. And right now he thinks he has 3 players that fill that prototype, that fill what he was looking for. And now Sion James, Malik Brown, and Mason Gillis. Excuse me. So I think it is a good trio to add to this Duke team. Now we're going to see how they can put it all together on the court. Because right now they look good on paper, but as you know, nothing really matters on paper. It's all how it translates to the court.
2 scholarship spots left for the Duke Blue Devils. We will see if and how those spots are used. Of course, we've got the walk-on option always for this Duke basketball team with scholarships that could be awarded to those players. So we'll wait and see how all of that unfolds. But Kevin, as we take a look at Seon James, and again, the size at 6'6", his ability to defend at a high level is a really big thing. I don't know that there's as much ball handling confidence as you might have had in other type players. That's certainly the sentiment. I'm hearing a lot more of that after the guy has committed than beforehand. Like all of a sudden that we've got a new player. A lot of Duke fans out there are like, wait a minute, he can't handle the basketball. I don't know how big of a deal that actually is, though.
I don't know if it's necessarily a big deal. I think that's one thing that everybody was looking for, was that other ball handler, just because you're so thin back there. But then you also think, like, when the big games come and when the pressure moments come, like, it's going to be Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster on the floor. So
right.
I think it's certainly depth. I don't want to compare it to the NBA right now, but I think it's something you could think about when you think about Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster. It's also, if you're watching the NBA playoffs and you look at the New York Knicks and you see Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart playing in an NBA game about 48 minutes per game. Now, obviously, the college game was 40 minutes. I think you're going to see Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster play anywhere between 36 and 40 minutes per game every single night. So, and now obviously college basketball less grueling than the NBA, only playing about 2 games per week before the postseason. So yeah, I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to knock on wood that neither of them get injured. Obviously, Caleb Foster had the injury late in the season to his ankle. Tyrese Proctor was dealing with stuff throughout the season, missing time. So yeah, I still think Seon James is a really good player, but just so everyone knows that he's not really a ball handler that you see, oh, Duke added a guard, he must be a ball handler because we know that's what they've been looking for. That's just not necessarily the case with his skill set right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's big. He's 6'6", and you've got Foster, you've got Proctor. Cooper Flagg is going to be able to handle the rock a little bit as well as a point forward type, getting Duke into a lot of their sets. And let's be very clear, this is where I would just kind of counter. You might not label this guy as your stereotypical ball handler, but he's played a hell of a lot of minutes of Division I basketball over the course of 4 years. He can dribble. Like, this dude is not going to be dribbling the ball off of his foot. And if there are stretches where he's got to be an initiator, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. That's where I take issue, Kevin. If people have a stance so aggressive that, oh my gosh, there's no shot at him handling the rock. Like, what are you watching? He's 6'6". He's done this for several years. I think he's going to be able to get by for what Duke would ask him to do. They're not going to ask him to come in right away and be able to handle the rock for the entire game.
No, I 100% agree with you. And I don't think he's necessarily going to start next season. Now, I do think one of the final starter spot is up for grabs, probably at that small forward position. But I want to compare him a little bit to Mason Gillis. I think Mason Gillis as a forward is a 3-and-D type guy that plays really good defense. He can step outside, hit a three-pointer. Now, Seon James has a lot more ability outside of hitting a three-pointer. You look at his numbers for Mason Gillis, it was really a 3 or a nothing. For Seon James, he can do a lot more. He can score basically at 3 levels. You look at some of his numbers last season for Tulane, he took 113 three-pointers. That was the most he's taken in his career. He made 43 of those attempts. That was the most he's made in his career. And he shot a career high 38% from three-point range. So his numbers have gotten better as he's gone along during his Tulane career, his 4 years there. Obviously, the volume next year with Duke, just because how many people are going to command shots, but him as a 3-and-D type guy at the guard position who would have the ability to play that 3 role as well.
Sion James commits to Duke basketball. He signs. He's on the dotted line. He's going to be playing for the Blue Devils this upcoming season. That leaves 2 open scholarships for Jon Scheyer and company. What's the plan there? What do we want the plan to be? We'll talk about that and a little bit more after we take one more time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. That's right, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get in the game, as FanDuel is also a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson, joined today by my good buddy Kevin Connelly, the site expert from Ball Durham. Please follow them on X at @ball_Durham. Follow Kevin as well at Kevin Connelly 24 is how you can see all of his content and great work there. So with these 2 open scholarships for Duke basketball, maybe it's seeming likely that you hold out a little bit. Stanley Borden's been a guy around the program for a while. You could give him a scholarship. Neil Begovic has a COVID year of eligibility after transferring in from Stanford a season ago. He was a practice player for the Blue Devils and not on scholarship. Maybe he gets a chance to be on scholarship. Those are all possibilities out there, Kevin. But the question is, what do you want to see Coach Scheyer and company do with this scholarship?
Well, I think it is the ball handler that what this team needs, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. I think what you have right now under scholarship in the rotation is going to be what you head into November with as well. I don't see any more major additions coming on this Duke basketball squad for next season. Could I be wrong and something shakes free late here in May? Yeah, of course. I think that you'd be foolish to completely shut the door to that, especially in college basketball when things change nonstop. But I could see at least one walk-on player be awarded a scholarship like we saw with Spencer Hubbard last season, and that would probably become later in the summer.
Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Duke to go out and add some folks, but also definitely get the argument there to, just go ahead and give it to walk-ons. And another reason for that, Kevin, I think as we saw this year, is it fair to have a little bit of cautiousness maybe in terms of handing out so many scholarships if the transfer portal is what it is and all of a sudden you give a guy a scholarship, he's going to turn around and not be here the very next season because he's frustrated with playing time. And if you're having to kind of manage those expectations, well, kind of limit the number of scholarships that you're given. I think it'll be very clear to walk-on level players that, like, look, you're not going to play a lot. I think they know that already. They're certainly cool with that. Maybe that's a level of cautiousness that not only Jon Scheyer, but college basketball coaches across the country might start thinking. There was a quote last week that John Calipari was thinking about 8 or 9 guys only on scholarship for his Arkansas team this upcoming season. Apparently, this is just becoming another thought that some of these coaches are having.
Yeah, it is. And I think you bring up a good point. When you look at the 3 players that Duke has added, 2 of them are out of eligibility after next season, in Mason Gillis and now Sion James. Obviously, Malik Brown just going into his junior season, played 2 seasons at Syracuse, so he would still have another year left at Duke if he wanted it. But portal, you're going after the seasoned guys, the veterans, the guys who bring that experience and that toughness. And that's what Duke did here with the 3 players they added. Now, yes, you will have players that go into the transfer portal who are still have 2-3 years of eligibility remaining, and they're your top end guys, and maybe that they're only going to stick around for a year before jumping to the NBA. Duke certainly sees that with its freshmen. Sometimes it's sophomores, as we saw with Kyle Filipowski this past season. So I do think now we're starting to see more of a recruiting philosophy from Jon Scheyer, where he's going to try and get his premier talent in the high school ranks, try and keep them as long as he can, and then add that veteran leadership and that experience and that toughness from the transfer portal. Because in the first year, obviously, it was needed. Yes, he had a big recruiting class coming in, but you were still looking to fill some holes from the portal. Last year, it was non-existent for Duke. Nobody went in. Nobody came to Duke from the portal. This year, now he's finally dipping his toe back into the portal. He needs to. I think he saw what the roster lacked last season, and one of the reasons why that they didn't reach their preseason goals. Now, yes, they did still go to an Elite Eight. Obviously, falling short in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament wasn't expected. And then losing to the same team from the ACC in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament and in the Elite Eight. So I think Jon Scheyer is seeing around the country what wins, and I think he's trying to replicate that at Duke as well.
Can't wait to see all of this continue to be put together by the Blue Devils and decisions that will be made very, very soon. We'll start to see these guys arrive on campus. K Academy coming up at the end of the month. Then the players will get to go back home for a week and a half or so and then report back for the start of summer workouts and that sort of thing. So in short order, Kevin, we're going to start to see more and more news coming out as this Duke team arrives on campus and whatnot.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Certainly, K Academy is always a great time for the future players, the past players, the campers as well. And that's when you really start to get a feel for how the team's going to mesh going into the upcoming season with guys getting on campus. Obviously, Colin Malawak won't be there as he's going to look forward to competing in the Olympics. So you will see guys starting to return back to campus. Probably the one face it's going to be weird not seeing there is Jeremy Roach. Obviously, he's been a fixture at K Academy for the past couple of years, and the fact that he's still playing college basketball this upcoming season, but it won't be at Duke, so he won't be at K Academy. That'll probably be a little weird, but I feel like everyone will get used to things and getting used to seeing the new faces around Durham as well.
And although who's to say he wouldn't be, Kevin, right? He's a graduated member of the program. He's a Final Four member of the roster, unless Baylor's already got kind of conflicting workouts and that sort of thing. I don't know. I think it's unlikely he's there, but I wouldn't be surprised because Jeremy Roach is always going to be a welcome part of that Duke basketball brotherhood. All right, let's get out of here today. But before we do, Kev, one more time, please promote all of your great work at the website.
Yeah, so it's balldurham.com. We got everything you could possibly want on Duke basketball and Duke athletics there. And then on X, it's ball_Durham, where you can follow us and obviously tweeting a bunch of stuff about Duke basketball and Duke basketball in the NBA and recruiting and so on and so forth. So those are the two places you can find us, and hope you come give us a read and follow us.
We love it. Go check it out, balldurham.com. Kevin, we'll talk again next week. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. And that's going to do it for our show here today. Once again, please give us a 5-star rating and written review. If you're watching us on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with your friends. We really do appreciate all of your support. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.